go back to this year and how after George Floyd, how different people felt or still do feel about Colin Kaepernick, I maybe I'm too extreme here, or maybe I just don't know my history well enough. I compare it to Muhammad Ali. When Muhammad Ali said he wasn't going to go fight in Vietnam, people hated Muhammad Ali. 20 years later, people loved and respected Muhammad Ali. It was a much shorter period of time for Colin Kaepernick, and I'm not sure he's as loved as Ali was, but at least his point has been made. Take a look at this. How about Mark Cuban and Ted Cruz, the senator, Ted Cruz, a former presidential candidate. So you have like this talk show host. By the way, this is the second time in today's show the name Mark Davis has come up. These are two different Mark Davises.
Yeah,
There was Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, and this guy, I didn't know who he was, but I had to look him up. I guess he's a radio talk show host on a conservative radio station in Texas. But if you put that quote back up, or that tweet, this guy, Mark Davis, says, "I'm ready for the Mavericks home stretch, but the minute one player kneels during the anthem, I'm out." And so then Cuban actually says to him, Mark Cuban's like, bye, Felicia. Because guess what? There are going to be guys that are going to kneel. And that is, we've changed our opinion on kneeling. And then Ted Cruz, the very conservative senator, comes back and says, "Oh, really? The NBA is telling everyone who stands for the flag, who honors our cops and our veterans, to piss off?" In Texas, no less, he says. This turned into, I was following some of these tweets yesterday. Jamel Hill, who used to be a talk show host on ESPN, she actually put something out on Twitter yesterday, which is, if you vote for Donald Trump in the upcoming election, you are a racist, period, end of conversation, and there's no way to get out of it. And I was like, Jamel, relax a second here. You can't just paint a brush that says anybody who votes for Trump is just purely a racist. That's not fair to plenty of people I know that they think economically the stock market's through the roof and interest rates are low and they give credit to the president, blah, blah, blah. By the way, it could be somebody who's on unemployment, who got their unemployment check and it said Trump on the bottom. They went, well, gee, he gave me some money. And so the point is you can't paint that kind of a stroke, in my opinion. But Alex, if you were to look this stuff up, I think Ted Cruz and Mark Cuban are now really fighting with one another, where Cuban writes back, "The national anthem police in this country are out of control. If you want to complain to your boss. Ask them why they don't play the national anthem every day before work." Okay. And so now Ted Cruz, I'm just getting some news flashes on my phone. Ted Cruz wants to challenge Mark Cuban to a debate about, and I'm just, again, this is all happening right here. I'm looking at the headline. Ted Cruz challenges Mark Cuban to speak about China in a heated Twitter spat over anthem kneeling. This is one thing that the NBA is so interesting. Whenever anybody challenges somebody from the NBA, it always comes back to, but don't forget, NBA, you're in business with communist China and they muzzle you guys. So as Americans, rather than having your freedom of speech, you shut the hell up because you're afraid of your business in China. And anytime that happens, that's the Trump card that people play against the NBA. And I don't know what else the NBA can ever do or say about it, because they're not going to stand up to China. They're not going to take a stand. Let me read what this one says. Let me take us through this, Alex, because this is all something I'm just seeing for the first time.
So have some balls, Ted Cruz. Speak to me. It's my tweet. So speaking of balls, tell us what you think about China. I'll wait. And then he says, still no answer from Cuban. Let's try simpler, Mark. Tough guy. Can you say free Hong Kong? Can your players put that on their jerseys? Can you condemn the CCP's concentration camps with 1 million? I don't know how to say that word. Can you say anything other than Chairman Mao is beautiful and wise? Ted Cruz or Mark Cuban says, I can say Black Lives Matter. I can say there's a systemic racism in this country. I can say there is a pandemic that you have done little to end. I can say I care about this country first and last. And then Cruz says, I agree. I'm reading this for the first time too. I agree there's a pandemic and we have taken extraordinary steps to defeat it. Where did that pandemic originate? Why did communist China cover up the Wuhan outbreak? And why are you terrified to say one word about China? I think it stops there.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. If I told you that Ted Cruz and Mark Cuban were going to fight in a boxing match for charity.
Oh, gosh. He already did this, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz loves the attention, dude, because Ted Cruz did this with Jimmy Kimmel where they didn't agree on something and they ended up playing a stupid basketball game that did nothing. And Ted Cruz is the guy who refused to wear a freaking mask on an airplane. And people took pictures of it, and United got in so much trouble because they didn't have the balls to tell a senator to put a mask on. Ted Cruz. He needs to shave too. He's an ugly looking guy. That's my biggest problem with Ted Cruz. His facial hair is just the worst.
All right, Browner, I know you want to. Let me hear this, Browner.
Ted Cruz is a shitbag. Period. Point blank. End of story. Donald Trump told Ted Cruz his wife was ugly, and now he's on the stage hugging and promoting Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. Ted Cruz is a coward of the highest regard. For him to say anything about communist China, and here he is in Texas with kids in cages at his border, kids separated from their families to the point where no one even knows where the parents are in relation to the children in his state, and he said nothing about that. So
why do
Ted
you guys
Cruz
have to turn everything
needs
so
to worry
political?
about his, because Ted Cruz needs to worry about his own backyard if he's going to tell Mark Cuban to worry about China.
But isn't it? But like for me, I just look at this and I go, okay, public spat. That's all. Like Mark Cuban's ultra famous. Ted Cruz is not nearly as famous, but he wants a piece, so he's coming after a big whale. And look, his opinions, which are not popular, certainly amongst us, and certainly not in California, but these opinions, they don't give up on him. They're like, no, this is about this, and it's not about that, and I will defend this till my death. And I just find it very interesting when people, especially people who have big followings, have gigantic public spats. You turn it right into more because you know more about what he is, who he is, whatever. For me, also beard, bad look. Terrible. You know, yeah. So
you know what a big problem is? You know what a genuine problem is that Trump did create? Because listen, no president in the history of presidents is 100% right, but Trump is 100% right according to Trump. So every time you challenge him, and a lot of politicians have taken this measure to start doing it too. Every time you challenge him on something and he knows he's wrong, he goes, well, what about this? Well, what about this?
Isms?
The what about
he deflects. He deflects. Right. He says this. He says, so he'll say something like, well, you know, the numbers are rising. And he'll go, well, it's China's fault. You know, and they say, well, you know, we can't fly. You know, Americans can't fly to Europe. He goes, well, they can't fly here. He goes, right. They say, well, what about Dr. Fauci? Dr. Fauci? I mean, I couldn't believe it. He's made a ton of mistakes. And he tells me all the time, President Trump, you've saved millions of lives. You're the great. He is a deflector. That's what he does.
So the whole thing, that's my point, is this whole thing started about the anthem. Ted Cruz goes, what about China? And then Cuban goes, well, what about Black Lives Matter? It's like, so what were we talking about here? And that's where, to your question, Scott, why does everything go political? Because that's what every freaking politician on both sides, Republican, Democrat, down the middle, do. Well, what about this?
How about non-politicians? Look at Cuban.
How about everybody?
Politician?
He said he was thinking about running for president.
Yeah.
I know.
Dude, listen, I respect Donald Trump for this.
Oh.
He says what he says. He means what he says. And he can give a damn what you think about it because he's got more power than you. So I can respect that. I respect the person who will tell me that they racist and not care about what I think about it. Ted Cruz is a liar. He will change his opinion about something when the situation suits him. He is not a man. He is a coward. Period. Point blank. End of story. Again, I can respect the person who has an opinion and they're going to share their opinion regardless of the turnout or the consequences. Ted Cruz is not that person.